So my name is Grace and I'm a student ambassador for Technovation Girls. Technovation Girls is a competition for girls all across the world, and they get to work together in teams to make an app and that will solve a problem in their community. And so as a student ambassador, I participated around 2 years ago, and right now I'm actually helping to recruit girls for this competition. And so in London, in my local area, I hold a club and I get to meet with the girls as they develop their own apps.
Awesome.
Thank
you. Can I
you.
ask what your project, what your app was?
So my app was called LexisLearn, and it helped you to learn vocabulary as you read, so you could create your own personal word bank. Would you like to tell me, please introduce yourself and your title and your company and possibly your responsibilities?
Sure. So my name is Kate Stepp, and I am a Senior Director of Engineering at FactSet. FactSet's a financial software company that provides content, services, and analytics to financial professionals. We're a global company that's headquartered in the US in Connecticut, and that's actually where I worked for about 10 years before coming to work at the London office last year. So I started out as an engineer at FactSet and then gradually over time kind of progressed to the role that I'm in today.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, because I did notice perhaps through your LinkedIn that you did stay at your one company after you graduated. So how did you find it was to progress through the ranks in your company?
It was actually a very natural progression. One of the things that I really liked about the company was that they don't hire managers in to manage engineers. It's a progression through that track so that you can actually understand the team that you're working with. So when I started out at FactSet, I was working very hands-on as an engineer and doing coding and working on small pieces of applications. And then over time, as I got more familiar with the code base and was able to take on larger projects, I moved into a manager role of a small team where I was still coding and I was mentoring other team members to all work on one larger application. So I did that for a few years, and then I, over time, started managing more teams. So I moved into a higher level role, bringing together many different teams and putting together larger product areas. And then more recently, our company split into what we call business units. So those are pretty much smaller companies within the large organization that we are. And so I am the head of engineering now for one of those smaller business units.
Oh, that's very interesting. So what would you say you love most about your profession right now?
Probably the fact that I am always learning something new. It's a little bit difficult because at some point you feel like you should have mastered a certain skill set, but in technology with everything changing so quickly, it's always something new that you can be learning. And it always keeps things interesting. So I'm never at a point where I'm feeling bored or complacent. There's always something new to explore and discover. I think that's probably, the best thing about technology in general. It applies to so many different areas. If you're ever bored in one particular industry, you can always switch to something new and always find something that is very applicable to what you're interested in at the time.
I definitely agree. So I just wanted to touch upon your personal story and your decision to become an engineer. So I just want to know how you came to it. And so did you have any inspirations, perhaps any female role models?
I always think back to, kind of how it all started. I've always loved mathematics and problem solving. And from the earliest time I can remember kind of interacting with computers in both school and at my own house growing up. I always really liked computers. And then there was this interesting time where I was playing this computer game. I've always wanted a dog growing up, and my parents never allowed me to have dogs. So there was this computer game that was all about virtual dogs. And so I learned how to hex edit the files of these digital dogs so that you could kind of change the characteristics of them. And, at this age in my life, this was really fun and exciting. And I learned how to create a website as well so that I could upload these files and people could adopt these dogs. And so at an early age, I kind of overlapped this obsession with animals and loving dogs with what I was learning with technology. And then luckily in my schooling in the US, there was really early on, I had access to programming classes that I really latched onto. And that's what got me into that in university. And again, I think it was that ability to have some problem that you need to solve and then not have an exact way to get there, but be able to come up with your own solution through code and through programming to come up with a creative solution.
Oh, that's very interesting. I do like that fact about computing as well, like the problem solving aspects. So thank you for that. So I know that you're involved in diversity and inclusion and corporate social responsibility. So could you expand on your responsibilities on that part?
Sure. So at FactSet, we have several different groups that help us create communities around diversity and inclusion. So whether that's women's groups or different minority groups, it brings together people who kind of have the same background and can come together and share and support each other. So I've been participating in some of those groups, and the biggest responsibility for me is just helping to support the group in any way that I can. So in one way, that's participation. In another way, it's when I'm participating in those groups, advocating for the needs of the group or raising any concerns of the group to different levels of leadership at the company so that we make sure that we're moving in the right direction to support everyone's needs.
Why do you think it's important to have more girls in engineering fields?
I think the biggest thing that's important is that everyone feels that they can go into the field that they find interesting. So there's a few pieces to that. One is that there has to be awareness and learning for girls to understand what that field is. If you haven't been raised to know much about technology or programming, it may not be something that pops into your mind as something that would be fun to do. So the biggest piece, is making sure that there is enough awareness and learning and opportunities for people to try out this field and understand if it's something for them. And then beyond that, it's feeling like you can participate in something, and a big part of that is representation. So if I try something out, really like it, and then go to participate and notice that no one else who looks like me is participating in that group, I start to have this feeling that maybe there's something I missed and really it's not right for me. So we need to have a welcoming environment when someone gets into technology to see more people like them and say, this is something that I like, and there's other people like me who have succeeded in that as well, so I can see a clear path to join in and be part of it. So by getting more girls involved, I think that just really starts us off in the right direction, that people see a way forward to participate in technology.
Would you say female perspectives are very valuable in sort of your area and your field where you work?
With FactSet in particular, we build financial software, and all of the financial professionals that use our applications, it's a very diverse group. And so it's important when you're developing software that the developers who are thinking about the needs of the user are able to, put themselves in the place of the user and understand the experiences that different types of users would have. And, just as much as the client base is diverse, we want our development teams to be sharing in that same diversity so that the ideas and the different issues and concerns that are brought into building the actual products are mimicking what the actual users would look like. Additionally, different backgrounds and diversity in general just brings different ideas to the table. When you have to debate something, it always comes with a more thought out solution, and more innovation comes from debating ideas and bringing in different points of view.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's very important as well. If you could rewind back time, what would you say is something you wish you knew as a young woman getting into tech and other opportunities in general? So what would you say are the necessary personal qualities that are necessary to, progress in your profession?
I'd say there's two things I wish I knew. One was that it's okay to ask questions and that you actually should ask questions. Early on in my career, I was very quiet and I would try really hard to find the answers on my own. And as I moved through management and coaching larger teams, the qualities that I'm looking for in someone are that they're inquisitive, they're curious, they're looking for a solution to a problem. I'm not looking for someone to know the answer immediately. So what I've learned over time, and I really wish I knew early on, was that you don't have to know everything up front. We don't expect everyone to know it all. Technology is such a wide field that there's no possible way to know everything. And by the time you do know everything, it has all changed and evolved into something else. So the biggest quality there is just the passion to find the right answer and the ability to problem solve, and that creativity and innovation. It's not about having all of the right answers up front. It's that willingness to learn.
Personally, would you say that there are any unique obstacles that you've had to overcome in your career?
The biggest thing I think I struggled with was my personal confidence and that common trend of the imposter syndrome. So this idea of the imposter syndrome is sort of that, maybe I'm not as qualified as everyone else. And at some point, someone's going to figure this out and reveal that I'm an imposter. Right, so this is a common feeling that many people have. It's not specific to just women in technology, but one of the things I've noticed is when I have that feeling and I'm in a space where I look around and the representation isn't exactly what I would hope it to be, it kind of accentuates that feeling or the fact that maybe it was a mistake that I found myself in this position. And so that challenge of reminding myself that actually I'm quite qualified for the position that I'm in and having the confidence and support from others, and also helping others to get to that position as well so that we're in a better place and we have those women in leadership that we can look to be that example of someone who's been there and has done it, and that it's not a scary place to be, and that there is a reason that you're there and it's not a mistake, right? So it's a challenge when there's not already the representation that you need. But what I've found personally is that even if in the exact field that I'm in doesn't have the same representation, I've had so many different role models and mentors across the company who are really giving me additional votes of confidence, always being there to kind of bounce ideas off of or provide different perspectives that may help me when I'm putting together a certain presentation I might be nervous for, or an interview that I might be preparing for. So I've always had support from others who, when I'm feeling a little bit of a lack of confidence, they're willing to kind of step in and help me see the different parts of myself that I may take for granted.
I think that's very interesting as well. Like, it's important, not to have that imposter syndrome and kind of, have confidence as well. Would you remember perhaps your college experience and say, how was it then? Like, how would you compare it to now? Would you say it was kind of very male dominated?
So I went to a university in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania called Carnegie Mellon, and they have a very strong computer science program. So it was very difficult to get into the program, and I was really excited about it. The ratio, again, was definitely much more male dominated at the time. And the program was very rigorous. And I saw many of my female other peers actually switching majors pretty early on. And I honestly thought about it myself because I struggled in some of the early classes that were more theory-based, which was something I wasn't used to from my more programming-specific classes that I had taken. So luckily I had a really good advisor in university, and he kind of encouraged me to just stick it out for at least the first year and then decide from then if I liked it or not. And it was good advice because I think after I sort of got used to that transition from moving into university, it was much better after that. The good thing about my university in general is since I graduated quite some time ago, Now at this point, they're actually at a 50-50 ratio of men and women in the program. So it's been really great to watch that evolve over time. And I've been very proud of the way that they have put a focus on that.
I think that's very good now to see like the ratio improve as well. Yeah.
Yes, it's definitely, I think some programs that may be more well established than others may have a better pipeline coming in and have the ability to get to that point. But I have seen improvements both in our kind of incoming classes at the company and also many other conferences that I've attended. I've seen more and more women participating. There's a conference in the US called the Grace Hopper Women in Computing Conference. I don't know if you've heard of it, but I started attending probably 8 years ago. And when I first went, there were 2,000 women at the conference. And more recently, they've had over 20,000 women attend the conference. And they basically have to cut it off at that level. They're running out of space for these conferences just because the interest has really been peaking. And it's one of the more empowering experiences I've been a part of, where you walk into like a stadium or a conference center and you're just surrounded by women in technology, which doesn't happen everywhere. So it was a really empowering experience. And those types of situations, I think give me a lot of hope that that's the direction that things are moving.
Who are the type of people that you've actually met, and have they inspired you perhaps at the conference?
So at the conference, my favorite part is always the different keynote speakers that they have. So I think it was even before Lean In was written, but Sheryl Sandberg was kind of an early keynote speaker at the conference. And she talked a lot about imposter syndrome because she doesn't consider herself as much of a technology guru, but she very much operates in the technology space. So she spoke a lot about getting comfortable with the fact that she did belong in that space, even without sort of a programming background. And I thought that was very insightful. More recently, they had a young entrepreneur speak who, basically was able to bring her own ideas to start a company that is utilizing alternative energy and bringing that to different parts of the world that didn't have access to that. And the way that she described building up her company and her team, she sought almost completely diverse groups, and the type of innovation that came out of that was really impressive. Anytime that I'm at that conference, I think anyone who's willing to get up in front of that many people and kind of tell their story shows a lot of confidence, and I'm always very inspired by just that fact in general. And I think that's very important for everyone. Speaking in front of people isn't really my favorite thing to do, but I think it is important for anyone who's kind of excelled in a given area to make sure that, again, talking about that visibility and representation, that we, as much as possible, show people that it's not only certain types of people that can succeed in a given area, that there's all different types and backgrounds that have had success.
Yeah, that's really cool. I kind of like that entrepreneurial idea as well. It's very interesting to see how diversity can drive innovation. So, these thousands of Technovation participants around the world, and they're already using technology to solve problems, which I say that is quite good, in this day and age. So I'd say, do you have any advice for Technovation participants?
My biggest piece of advice would be, if you're enjoying it, to stick with it and maybe branch out to look at a different type of technology. As I was mentioning earlier, I think the reason that I have spent so long in this field and never felt tired of it at all is because of that kind of ever evolving new technologies. With cloud computing now, it's so easy to kind of try something out without a large barrier to entry of needing to purchase lots of hardware or systems. At this point in time, everything is so accessible, and there's really no reason not to try something new. So if you've seen success with the apps that you've built so far, maybe think a little bit bigger for the next one and pair up with with other like-minded people who want to solve the same problems and just continue to go after it.
Thank you. It was nice to hear your experience as well.
I appreciate all the questions you put together. It made me think about a lot of different things in my past and, where I'm going. I'll have to keep thinking about what my next role is, but I appreciate all of your time. Let's start making HERstory.